My name is Anatoliy Pavalko. I am a lead lawyer of international charitable organization Ecology-People-Law. I'm very glad to meet you this evening, and I'm grateful for the opportunity for Ms. Kahovska, because it's a chance, it's an opportunity to tell you about the activity we carry out in Ukraine. The activity which is carried out by public, by civil society, sometimes without any support from state authorities, sometimes opposite to state authorities, but always for the benefit of people and for the benefit of our common nature. So let's start let me start my presentation to tell you about our activities and finally about our Kahovska platform, what we do, how we do, why we do, and what we are going to achieve with our activity. Let's start from the first slide. Do you see it? Is it demonstrated properly? Fine, thank you. So, I think all people who are acquainted with river issues remember about Kahovka catastrophe, which took place in Ukraine the last year in 2023. It was a dam of one of biggest Ukrainian hydropower plants, which was blown up by Russian occupants in order to stop Ukrainian offensive to deoccupy territories of southeastern Ukraine. There were heavy fighting in this area, and being aware of risks of Ukrainian troops to cross Dnieper River, there was probably an intention and a decision of Russian military forces to blow up the dam to make Ukrainian troops impossible to overcome the river and to enter the left bank. The consequences were catastrophic. I would say that this blow up took place near Kahovka, on Kahovka hydropower plant on the 6th of June 2023. It is necessary to say that there were people who have been killed by this crime, and we would certainly know that it was a crime. It was a serious crime against nature and against people. 55 people have been killed by the following flooding, and it is necessary to say that this amount includes only people who were killed on the territory which is under control of Ukraine. For the rest of affected area, we cannot provide any recordings because Russian authorities, those who take part in occupation of Ukrainians' land, does not provide any information. They just repeated that there were 59 people killed. In this regard, we suggest that number of people who had been killed on the territories occupied by Russians is high. First of all, due to geographical reasons. We have high right bank of Dnieper River, which is more resistant to all types of floodings, and lower left bank. This lower left bank is occupied by Russians, and also there are lots of settlements on it. The main wave of flooding directly attacked the left bank. Indirect data received from left bank shows that there were hundreds of people died on this territory due to floodings. For instance, these were proofs provided by people who worked on cemeteries in left bank of Dnieper River. And these evidences were told to BBC reporters on this occupied left bank. These are indirect evidences which we can get from there. It is necessary to say that Kahovka water reservoir and Kahovka hydropower plant provided very important services for people, for residents of surrounding area. For instance, Kahovka water reservoir was used for drinking water supply of cities and towns like Nikopol, Marganets, Pokrov, and some other towns and villages of Kherson regions. All the facilities have either been destroyed or were placed far away from water surface due to the changes which was caused by dam destruction. For all the people affected, it meant they since that time they became dependent of transportation of water by trucks, by water tanks. There were some drinking water provided for people, but this water not sufficient for their sanitary needs. And it was also very important. Now this problem is solved to much or less extension. It is necessary, once again, it is necessary to say that this flooding came through the settlements which were previously suffered from military shelling, for instance. And there were a lot of buildings, there were a lot of communications, bridges, roads, shops, and even supply changes destroyed. And this floodings was main, but just one of serious problems these people faced due to war. There were 5 Ukrainian regions affected by this destruction in total. If to tell about the results, We should note that there were economic, social, and natural based results. The first result was full drought on former Kahovka water reservoir. In fact, the water went away. There was a water still in the old river bed of Dnieper River. At some places, water went away for 25 to 30 kilometers from the previous bank of the reservoir. And there were lots of different thoughts about how to deal with this situation. There were some thoughts about desertification of this area. There were thoughts how it can be used in the future, how it can be dealt in the future. The other issue was suffering of people and suffering of domestic, let's say domestic animal, the pets, which were evacuated, which were affected by this flooding. But both these facts were widely reflected, for instance, in mass media, not only in Ukraine, but abroad. The third victim of this crime was nature. It is necessary to say that we often say that nature is a silent victim of such crimes. And even now, we cannot properly assess the real damage which was caused by this crime to the nature. It is necessary to say that banks of Dnieper River and meadows, which lies on the both banks of Dnieper River, are important habitats for steppe flora and fauna in Ukraine. The steppe flora and fauna means that both plants and animals normally live in dry conditions. They are not prepared to live in the situation of flooding. The flooding, which lasts for more than 1 week, probably means that main part of populations vanished. We do not know exactly what happens. One of these photos you can see on this slide shows newts which were blown away to the sea. They normally live in freshwater ecosystems. They cannot survive in the condition of salt water. In fact, they were removed to the Black Sea, and probably essential part of the population has been destroyed. These newts, you can see here, were rescued by personnel of Tuzlivsky Limani National Park and then removed to the Danube River Delta, which is one of habitats of these protected newts in Ukraine. There were lots of thoughts, lots of forecasts how the situation will be developed in the future. But surprisingly, the results we can see here were far away from expected. The first issue, an important issue, is that nature was able to recover. And it was able to recover very quickly, comparing to the actions which can be taken by authorities, by people. Now we have ecosystems which are actively restored with natural plants. For instance, with salix species. This is the first issue. Another important issue is that this, as we call it, one of the newly grown forests in Europe, is huge. It covers, in fact, almost 90% of riverbed of former Kahovska reservoir, and it's a very big potential deposit of greenhouse gases in Europe. Probably it will be, it is potentially be the biggest area which catches greenhouse gases in Europe. Another issue is that we cannot still assess all the results of the catastrophe because we still have heavy findings on this area. All the expeditions, all researches which are carried out exactly on this area in situ are connected with high risks for all those who are involved in them. So we can say we have just fragmentary assessments, fragmentary researches, fragmentary data from this area. And probably due to continuous war, we will not able to assess everything what happened on this area. But it is necessary to say that Ukraine has to react somehow. And the surprising thing for all of us was how our government react to the situation. In a couple of days, Ukhrhydroenergo, it's the biggest Ukrainian operator of hydropower plants, declared that this hydropower plant has to be rebuilt as soon as the territory is deoccupied. It was quite a surprising issue for all of us because even before the destruction, Kahovka Dam and Kahovka Water Reservoir were quite problematic in terms of their economic efficiency, social efficiency, and environmental impact. What about economic efficiency? It is declared that it is one of the biggest producers of hydro energy in Ukraine. But if to compare with other sources, it is less than 1% of electrical energy to be produced by this specific hydropower plant. The other issue is areas, lands covered with water of reservoir. The lands were huge. And if to compare electricity production, which is done by this Kahovka hydropower plant, and potential production of, for instance, solar energy to be placed on this area, these amounts are not comparable. I mean, we can produce the same amount of energy using 10 times less area for placement of solar panels. The rest of the area can be used for other types of economic activities. For instance, for forestry, for restoration of natural ecosystems, for agriculture, etc., etc., etc. It is necessary to say that before the dam, this area was populated and it was used. It was not a desert, as normally, as often our authorities say. The other issue is social. Our authorities often declare that all social environment around this territory depends on water from the reservoir. It is partly so, but it is necessary to say that this area, once again, was not a desert, even before the construction of the dam. There were other types of agriculture used on these lands. There were other types of settlements which were placed on these lands, but they existed. And often they were much more sustainable and much more friendly to the environment than this Kahovka water reservoir, as well as water supply systems connected to it, which were absolutely inefficient. And the third issue is nature. It is important to say that Dnipro River was second biggest habitat of sturgeons in the world before the construction of Kahovka hydropower plant, because lots of spawning areas for sturgeons were located just upstream the Kahovka hydropower plant. And sturgeons are able to sprawl on the areas which have first quite speedy current, water current, and they are strongly dependent of types of river bed. The stony riverbed and sandy riverbed is favorable for them. But when you have silt, which is accumulated in water reservoir, it is absolutely unsuitable for sturgeons. That is why we observed quite long decline of population of sturgeons in Dnieper River. In fact, we cannot even say about any essential viable population of sturgeons in lower Dnieper. It is an important issue. The other issue is quality of water. The quality of water in Kahovka water reservoir was not correspondent to the requirements we often apply to high quality water for drinking water and sanitation water. It was polluted and it faced the problems which normally face the same shallow water reservoirs in the same hot conditions, like, for instance, rapid occupation of it by algae. This is the issue, and this issue should be addressed. That's why we were so surprised about such rapid decision. Let's rebuild, let's restart, and do exactly the same what we had before. We have to react. We have to start the discussion somehow. To discussion with not just with hydropower lobby and agriculture lobby. We had to start with discussion with different stakeholders, including, for instance, scientific society, including agricultural producers, including industry, including state authorities, including people from the areas which are affected by water supply and affected by catastrophe. That's why we decided to establish Kahovska platform as a special space for all people interested in finding solutions, modern solutions, not the solutions which were taken 70 years ago by a communist party which did not take into account public opinion. We can discuss different scenarios to restore dam or not to restore. If to restore, how to restore. If not to restore, how to deal with the territory, with the problems we face. Because the destruction was catastrophe, but the current situation can be catastrophic for some stakeholders as well. For instance, for those who depend on irrigation, for especially agriculture. We have to think how to use the funds to be allocated for the solution of this problem efficiently. For instance, our government declared that it should be more or less 10 billion euros necessary for restoration of hydropower plant. And it takes up to 12 years to make it fully operable. In this regard, we should think about efficiency of investments. How to invest, where to invest, and in which sphere to invest. Maybe it is more important to invest in social sphere, in environmental protection, or even in rebuilding of a hydropower complex, but using other technologies, not to waste water, not to waste nature, not to waste money. What our platform is? It's a kind of forum which includes different stakeholders. It is more than 50 organizations and individual participants who take part first in the discussions on different topics, on all. We try to cover all problematic topics to discuss, to hear each other, and to propose our government the decisions which seems to be the most efficient. Sometimes it can be number of decisions to be compared. we have different discussions and different topics to be discussed. Now, what we do, we try to establish separate working groups focused on historical issues, agricultural issues, nature protection issues, industrial issues, water supply issues, and to find the decision. Actually, Environment-People-Law try to involve best researchers, best scientists who have experience in preparation of scenarios. And we hope that with this public platform, we can build up different scenarios which will be presented for both our government and international donors to make, let's say, sustainable decision. The decision which will be sustainable from all points of view: economic, social, and environmental. It is very important not to make old mistakes. It is important to rebuild to restore nature. And if we decide to rebuild with best available technologies and to benefit from the experience of the whole world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anatoly. But we still, for a second slide, maybe you can show all or send your presentation for our group's participants.
I will send it. I will send it.
Okay, and maybe our participants have some question for Anatoly. Please.
Feel free to ask or comment if you would like to.
If you can repeat question, but near the computer, because we can not hear.
Sorry, we still wait for questions.
Everyone's tired toward, I think. So, okay, I will have a question then. You can repeat after a while. So what is the view of Ecology-People-Law then on Kahovska Dam? Because there was like a lot of saying about the nature restoration, but at the end of the speech, I also hear about possibilities of rebuilding. So what is their view? Does it need to be rebuilt or not? That was not it for me.
Thank you very much for the question. It's a very good one, because often people suggest that we prefer one or another scenario. From the very beginning, we took the decision that we will not give any preference to any scenario, because we, as an organization which deals with environmental protection, often tend to prefer the actions which are important from environmental point of view, but which are less focused on social and economical issues. So we took the decision not to make preference to any of them. We want, and we have started to build scenarios to be compared, not by us, but by decision makers and stakeholders. And in each scenario, we are going to present, let's say, SWOT analysis of each option of development. but it is we hope that it will be 2 or 3 scenarios to be presented to general public. But even now, it is very important to protect once again the interests of the environment. Why? Because once again, our social, civil society is able to speak aloud. Our industry and agricultural lobbies and hydropower lobbies are very much able to speak aloud. They often are heard. But if to speak about the environment, it's a silent victim. And we need to take a point and to advocate for it. That's why we try to join other people interested in, let's say, in disclosure of issues related to environmental protected, to emphasize them, and all these arguments to be had. For instance, this newly grown forests, it is very important source of greenhouse gases collection and storage. If we decide to rebuild the dam, what will happen with this forest? What will happen with all these trees, all this timber, which is already grown in this area? If we talk about climate changes and our actions toward them, what should we prefer? Yeah, we can prefer strong hydropower plant with water reservoir which is source of greenhouse gases, or we can prefer forest which collect these greenhouse gases. We prefer electricity to produce by hydro power, or we prefer electricity to be produced by solar energy. And there are lots of things to be compared.
Thank you, Anatoly. That was like quite comprehensive answer. I don't see more comments or questions, but definitely your voice will be within our discussion. So thank you for connection, and we will be happy to get your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll share you this presentation as well as another one, because we have several researchers who visited this territory, who take some researches on this area, and they it is not within the format of our today's discussion, because we were more to talk about the platform. But I'll be glad to share also these results with you, because once again, we are interested to involve as wide public as we can, as wide society of specialists, of professionals in this platform, to really make the most efficient decisions.
We are glad to hear that. Thank you, and we are waiting for both presentations.
Thank you, Anatoly. Thank you, Anatoly, and thank you all participants. Wish you good evening. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.